Hello, good crowd. I am really excited to share with you. We've got Art Komarov, the co-founder and CEO of Wisely, with us today. We're going to have a great discussion about how nonprofits can use artificial intelligence to improve their fundraising. Stick around.
Welcome to the Your Mark on the World show with your champion of social good, Devin D. Thorpe.
Please support the sponsors who made this episode possible, including Johnson & Johnson's Caring Crowd and goodcrowd.school. Art, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Well, we're thrilled to have you and really excited to talk about what you're doing. Tell us a little bit about Wisely. Give us a quick introduction to the company and its AI products.
Sure. So we're just coming up on 2 years as a company. We're a brand new startup still, I think, by early stages. We're seed funded. So for folks that may be kind of interested in that, that means we're right out of that stage where we've just built the product, but before the stage where we really grow as a team. So we're about 10 folks right now. And a lot of the push behind the company, my personal drive, and I'm one of the 3 co-founders that started the company, was to really take a lot of the tools that I had as a salesperson, bring it over to the fundraising space. And AI was just something that was coming up at the time, back in 2017 when we got started. And it really just seemed like this great way to kind of jump the gap that we saw in efficiency and productivity. But a lot of it, again, comes back to that kind of sales enablement, what we call fundraising enablement.
Excellent, excellent. Well, you put together a few ideas for how people can bring about technology adoption in a nonprofit for us. And I want to just review those with you. You had suggested, and this is perfectly apropos. I mean, I'm sure this is what you're seeing with your clients, is that the technology implementation is a bit of a challenge. Your first note is everyone has an accidental technologist in their organization, someone that ends up being a technical resource for their colleagues without an IT title. And you suggest that when you're implementing, you've got to find that person and work closely with them. Why is that so important?
Well, because you have to have somebody who kind of really translates a lot of the technology into something that makes sense for everybody on the team. So, kind of going back to that sales analogy, sales enablement as an industry is about 15 years old, which means a long time ago, you saw people using a CRM, and then those tools got a lot better. Those tools have gotten so good that there's entire dedicated departments to sales enablement. On average, my team uses about 12 tools, to give you a sense. That fundraising team, they're going to be using one or two things. They're probably going to be using their email, obviously, and their CRM. And we're kind of the third or fourth tool that they may be adding to their toolkit. So the whole purpose of the accidental technologist is that as an industry, we are seeing enough shift these days that people are adopting what they want to kind of take on, but there's going to be hesitation, and we can kind of get into the rest of what we see on that side. But there's always someone who has already picked up technology, is thinking about it. And what we want to get away from is the idea that this is the IT department, which is a kind of common way to think about it in the industry. It's always somebody on the team who's kind of engaged. And the easiest way to check is like, who's the person you actually ask for help when something goes wrong from, a technology standpoint. So they tend to be the ones that are the first to pick up.
Excellent. Your second tip was to reinforce why you made the decision to implement the new technology, to focus on the mission. Tell us a little bit about that. Why is that important?
Yeah, and this is something we borrow from a lot of B2B businesses. I think across the board, we see kind of the same thing, regardless of which sector you're selling into and who you're working with. That as you set these things up, and I'm a technologist, I wish technology was so good that it sort of sold itself and adopted itself. But frankly, what we really see is the biggest barrier is just change management. It's kind of a fear of what the world looks like. And the person who can fix that the most, we as a vendor are going to do our darnest to make sure you get value out of it. We're going to call you every day if we have to make sure you use this thing. But frankly, at the end of the day, the manager is the one who can translate it. And getting people to really understand why that tool is being rolled out is a really powerful way to actually get that adoption. Otherwise, people are kind of confused about why you're adding more work to their day. You can automate a lot of those things, but still, it's human nature, I think, to kind of run into that hesitation. And so managers can play a really powerful role in translating it to the bigger mission. And of course, nonprofits have, I think, kind of a really good monopoly on being the top performers when it comes to the mission. So this is kind of your bread and butter. You're really good at it. Reinforcing it is good for the clients.
Excellent. Now, your third tip is to embrace change, but acknowledge and recognize that fears about technology implementation are really maybe secret fears about change. Talk us through that issue.
Yeah, what you're going to see in a lot of cases when it comes to change management and sort of hesitation about adopting technology is that people struggle to kind of explain why they're not going to take something on. A long time ago, I was a policy advisor, and so I always come back to that mindset. Information, unfortunately, only really goes so far in changing people's minds. Otherwise, I'd have a healthier diet, I'd be sleeping more, and all that other good stuff. But small little nudges go a long way towards changing that behavior. Vice versa, when it comes to understanding what's stopping people from adopting technology, just being open, transparent. I think it's good business practice. I think it's something that we both preach and practice for ourselves as a company. But it's also really great practice just for individuals because you're letting them sit down, talk about what's making them worried. So one of the best things I can point to is automation. Obviously, automation is a huge concern when it comes to artificial intelligence. What we've really seen in this industry specifically, and I don't want to speak for across the entire North America, is that automation actually typically takes routine tasks off the table, frees you up to do a lot better work. And so you're not going to be able to figure that out. That's why it's really important to be patient, sit down with people, talk to them, really kind of understand their worldview and help them work through that concern.
And I think a lot of people, when change is proposed, resist it because it is an implicit critique of the way they've been doing it. And that is what stings, don't you think?
Yeah, I think that's really the fastest way we tend to think of technology. And look, the tech sector is going through kind of a pretty important change where I think we've seen a lot of the value of technology. We've started to see some of the downside, unfortunately. So it's easy to kind of jump into a position where you think that the work that's being automated is a critique of how you're doing things. We as just humans, I think, will go a long way to do maybe the wrong thing the right way, is what we've seen. And that's consistent across almost any product. So the moment I think you can really make that change real, make it something that's very helpful to them. Again, that's why we come back to the idea of the mission. Every person is deeply passionate about the nonprofit that they work in. If you bring it back to the mission, they can see how they are helping move that needle. And then the technology is no longer a barrier, it's an enabler.
As you think about your software, what's the sales pitch you use to get people to adopt your products?
This is an early analogy that kind of came up at an early discussion. Someone compared us to kind of going from MapQuest to Google Maps. It's actually a pretty appropriate way we think about the AI in our system too, because in Google Maps, machine learning is running in the background all the time. Almost every Google product has machine learning in it now, but it's fairly seamless. It's not something of a feature that kind of sticks out at you. And so for us, the conversation I'm really having is, I'm not changing the destination of where you're going. I just want to give you better real-time information about how to do things. One that really adopts to what's going on. So something we've done, on the gift model side is really look at the next gift for an individual rather than just trying to predict their propensity to give. So again, it really comes back to that idea that if done right, I think AI is very seamless. It's really just part of your stack. And as you work on those tools, we're just trying to make your life better in a way that we, hope and kind of see that you're not going to go back to the old way. So fortunately, not a lot of people are using MapQuest, although I did find out it's actually still around. So I hope their listeners, I do like their product. I used it a lot before.
Yeah, that's great. Well, Art, as you look back on what you've accomplished over the last couple of years, what are you most proud of?
I think just getting a team together that's really been passionate about the industry. That was one of the earliest pieces of feedback I got from every single person that we interviewed for the company, that they were just really bought into the mission of supporting nonprofits. It was just really reassuring, I think, to get that from everybody. When you're an entrepreneur initially, obviously you kind of are out there by yourself. And even just as a team of three, we were still kind of trying to understand whether we made the right decision. So just getting more and more folks on our team that are really supportive. We also just are very team-driven culture here. So just at Wisely, seeing that it really has a personal impact for everybody, what they want to do, the passion they bring to it has been kind of the biggest reassurance and kind of the biggest, I think, value for me, short of just seeing clients use the product, seeing the industry change as well around us.
Art, you've been at this for a while, and by that I mean entrepreneurship, and this isn't your first rodeo. What's the most important lesson you've learned over your career?
I would say just kind of holding your thoughts lightly. My entrepreneurial journey properly started, I think, in like 2017 when I began the company. And it's really starting to learn how to commit to the idea that you're following, having that sense of passion and drive and grit, whatever you want to call it. I think people call it different things. But then at the same time, understanding that your business is a hypothesis and just being able to listen and take in. That's a core skill set of sales and entrepreneurship, I think. And it can kind of get lost depending on how fast you're going every single day. So it's just something I constantly remind myself, just to kind of sit back, listen, try and actually hear what the market's saying, and hold our hypothesis lightly.
I think it is a profound insight to suggest that. So we tend to think that we get committed to our ideas, to our opinions, and we tend to listen to things that confirm our ideas and our opinions. And if they're not right, we can really end up way off track. So that's a really profound insight. Thank you. So Art, you could be using AI and entrepreneurship to solve a lot of problems. Why nonprofit fundraising?
I think I'm drawn to these kinds of sectors particularly. Again, I think I alluded to the fact that I've got a policy background. Nonprofits was first on my list of spaces that I really wanted to work in. To be kind of clear, honestly, education and healthcare would be the two other ones I've always been interested in. And obviously there's a bit of a pattern there, which is I find it appealing to do work that has this really strong impact, even if the industry is a little bit slow to change. Those kind of always been spaces that I wanted to do. I have to say, actually, on the AI side, which maybe, as an AI company is kind of a contrarian view, we tend to think of ourselves as AI first, meaning it's part of our stack, it's part of the technology. I think it's a great advantage for the industry. I'm really glad to see it take on something innovative. I would have still built Wisely without AI. It would be harder, it would be more difficult, but I think that helps get down to like a core value that you're actually providing to the industry, the user, the organization, whoever you happen to be servicing. So for me, AI was just this kind of great accelerant that we could add to the product, but I would have still built the same thing or some variation of it, even if that wasn't something that was available. I'm just glad to be kind of in the time when it is available cheaply.
Excellent. Art, what is your superpower?
I would love to say listening, but I'm sure as a meditative practice that comes away not necessarily every time. I think I'm pretty good at getting people to see a different vision of the world. Certainly I'm coming from sales, that had always been kind of my focus, and I think it's served me well in entrepreneurship. So just getting people to kind of understand that things could be done a different way, the way that would dramatically change their world. And I don't think this is my superpower, but enough folks have kind of come along for the ride that I think they at least trust me for it. So hopefully that's, I'd love to hear what others would say in this particular.
Yeah. You're brave. You're brave. I always worry about what other people will say, but Art, I really appreciate you taking the time to be with us today. Before you go, would you take just a minute and tell people how they can learn more about Wisely and how they can connect with you personally?
Excellent. First off, thank you for having me. And then in terms of reaching out, you can find us at Fundraise Wisely as a handle pretty much across the internet, LinkedIn, Twitter, everything else. If you find that hard to spell, you can just go to wisely, wisely.ai, and it'll redirect you to the right place. And then reach out anytime. My email is also artiom@fundraisewisely.com. So I'm available directly if you'd like. And you can find us across the internet.
Fantastic. Well, Art, again, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. We wish you every success in helping nonprofits to raise money more effectively.
Thank you for having me.
All righty. Let's do some good.
At Caring Crowd, we believe everyone has the power to make a difference. Through our crowdfunding platform for community health, we empower passionate people to drive real change. Whether you work for a nonprofit organization, volunteer, or want to get involved for the first time, you can post a campaign on Caring Crowd. Join us, because caring is where change begins.
At goodcrowd.school, 5% of what you pay to learn how to make a difference goes to nonprofits working to eradicate extreme poverty, improve global health, and reverse climate change by 2045. So when you take a course to learn how to change the world, you do change the world. Get started at goodcrowd.school today. Thanks for tuning in to the Your Mark on the World show, the Social Impact Podcast. Please subscribe via YouTube, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, or Spotify.